Picture this: a country with one of the highest crime rates in the world. Gangs rule the streets, violence is on the rise, and safety is something you can only dream of. But what if I told you this country decided to respond to this chaos by building the largest prison the world has ever seen? Sounds like something out of a dystopian movie, right? But this is exactly what El Salvador did. Welcome to El Salvador, known for its stunning volcanoes, beautiful beaches, and rich culture. But behind this picturesque image lies a struggle, one that's been growing for years. El Salvador is no stranger to violent crime. In fact, the country has faced some of the highest homicide rates in the world. The reality here is brutal. Gangs have been in control for years, and the government has been in a constant battle to try and restore order. So, what do you do when the crime is so out of hand that it feels like there's no hope? Well, El Salvador decided to take a bold step, something that raised eyebrows all over the globe. Over the years, El Salvador saw gang violence explode. Groups like MS-13 and Barrio 18 became notorious for their control over whole neighborhoods, terrorizing the population. And the police? They were often outnumbered and outgunned, unable to do much to stop the violence. The situation became so bad that people started to feel like they were living in a constant state of fear. And what's worse, these gangs weren't just fighting each other. They were terrorizing innocent civilians, wreaking havoc on entire communities. So how do you fight this level of violence? El Salvador's government had to get creative. They decided that the only way to take back control was by building a massive prison. And not just any prison, but a place designed to hold 40,000 of the most dangerous criminals in the country. Think about it. A prison so big, so secure, it could completely isolate the worst offenders from the rest of society. No more gang control from within prison walls. This was supposed to send a powerful message to the criminals. We're in charge now. The design of this prison is nothing short of intimidating. With its towering walls, state-of-the-art security systems, and absolute isolation for prisoners, it's built to send one clear message: there's no escape, and no way to communicate with the outside world. Criminals in this prison are cut off completely. No phones, no visitors, no contact with the outside. But here's the question: is this approach really the answer? Can we just lock up our problems and pretend they'll disappear? Now, this prison hasn't come without its fair share of criticism. Many argue that the strategy is too extreme and could lead to human rights violations. Critics say locking people away in isolation isn't the solution to crime. It just hides the problem. And while El Salvador believes that isolating criminals from society will bring peace, others argue that it's more important to address the root causes of crime: poverty, lack of education, and social inequality. Now let's think about the long-term effects of this mega prison on El Salvador. On one hand, the government claims it's a step toward peace, that it's finally taking control of the violence. But there's more to consider. What happens when you lock away thousands of people? There's a huge economic cost to building and maintaining a prison of this scale, and it takes a toll on the country's resources. And let's not forget the families of these criminals. Many of them live in the same neighborhoods as the gangs, and now they're affected by the crackdown too. Yes, criminals need to be held accountable, but are we solving the problem or just shifting it? Is this creating a deeper divide in society? It's easy to look at the mega prison and think, wow, they found a way to control crime. But there's a deeper, more complex question here. How humane is this approach? The idea of isolating people for extended periods of time raises human rights concerns. Prisoners in these conditions are cut off from the outside world. No communication with family, no phone calls, no human connection. It's a level of isolation that many experts argue is more damaging than rehabilitative. Is it justice, or is it a system that dehumanizes its own citizens? This prison's extreme measures have sparked debates about whether it's right to treat prisoners this way, even if they've committed violent crimes. El Salvador's mega prison has certainly set a precedent that will be watched by countries around the world. If this all-out approach works, could it inspire other nations dealing with rising crime rates to adopt similar tactics? It's a question that many governments are asking themselves right now. However, there's a big difference between El Salvador's situation and others. Some countries already have more established systems of rehabilitation and crime prevention. But for nations facing intense violence like El Salvador, could this be seen as the only way to make real change? Or is there room for other innovative solutions? So, what can we learn from El Salvador's approach? Well, the question is, can we solve crime just by locking people up? El Salvador is showing the world that sometimes extreme measures might be necessary when the system is broken. But can other countries take this as an example and combine it with more holistic solutions? Imagine a world where instead of building more prisons, governments focus on fixing the root causes of crime: education, healthcare, better opportunities for young people. Would that be a more sustainable solution? Maybe the biggest question we should ask is, what does a society truly need to feel safe? El Salvador's approach is an extreme one, built on the belief that you can fight crime with force. But in our own lives, we have choices too. We decide how we handle conflict, how we build trust, how we choose to solve problems. While El Salvador isolates its criminals to isolate the problem, maybe we as individuals need to look at the problems in our own lives, personal, emotional, societal, and ask, how can we break these cycles without creating more harm? Because in the end, crime is just a symptom. And just as El Salvador is using a massive, drastic measure to fight its symptoms, we, as people, need to examine the systems that shape our world. If we keep fighting fire with fire, are we making things better? Or are we just adding to the flames? So, maybe the lesson here isn't about whether prisons should be bigger or smaller. It's about how we, as individuals, choose to deal with the root causes of our own struggles and ultimately how we build peace, not just for nations, but for ourselves. And hey, if this kind of story got you thinking, maybe that's a sign to stick around. I'll be sharing more eye-opening stories from around the world. Stories that challenge what we think is normal. New perspectives every week. Subscribe if you're curious.